Gifted style. These players will shake hands. We'll be underway here. A little bit sped up, as a once upon a time can take some time to resolve, but not this time here for Jeremy Bertarioni. It looks like he added a Razorverge Thicket to his hand. He will play a Razorverge Thicket. This is a Gilded Goose. There's a food, and let's pass the turn back over to Zach Allen. The Michigan native is going to deploy a Birds of Paradise. Patrick, you felt this one was totally fine here for Zach Allen, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most explosive draws on the Devastation side are still going to be Trouble. But Allen has more cheap interaction than a lot of the other, Bant decks that we've seen in this tournament. We watched him beat Dylan Donegan earlier this event. Mana Leak had a lot to do with it. So I think on paper the matchup looks extremely bad for Allen, but I think once you get into the details of it, it's okay.
That'll be an untapped Hallowed Fountain there for Zach Allen, and it'll still fall a little bit lower. It looks like down to 17 here from the Fetch plus Shock. And now your follow-up is going to be one of those 3-mana Planeswalkers ahead of schedule. Oko, Thief of Crowns, is going to turn a Giver of Runes into an Elk. A Once Upon a Time on the end step here. It's going to yield a Devoted Druid for Jeremy Bertarioni. So the Elk is going to bring Oko down to 2. The follow-up is a Vizier of Remedies. Maybe a little surprised to see him go to that as opposed to the Druid, but I guess the thought process is if you turn my Vizier into an Elk, I'm almost certainly going to kill your Oko, and then my Devoted Druid is opened up to do its thing.
Yeah, I think Bertarioni's probably taking comboing off the table for a little while, just trying to develop his battlefield with as much power as possible to threaten the Oko. So he might just be saying to himself, listen, I'm a couple turns off. I had to manage the Oko first before I can really worry about trying to assemble the combo. Playing a Devoted Druid is just giving up too much of the game there.
One thing about Allen's deck, his goal, overhearing a conversation between him and some others at the Players' Championship, as there's a Spell Queller looking to do some blocking, and in blocking he will, as Oko will fall down to 1. His goal was to have the best Oko to Fairy deck, or ideally turn to Oko deck in the format. That was his idea. I want to jump to being able to play Oko ahead of schedule better than anybody else in Modern, and if I do that, I feel like I can win. And it looks like he has built a deck that does that very well, and also does some other things as he fetches up a Snow-Covered Plains off of that Windswept Heath. Plays a land for the turn. There's a Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge is going to go searching. It's going to find a copy of Batterskull.
So this is the squeeze that Allen can put you under. If you have Oko, you're not winning the game with text boxes, and if you have Batterskull, you're not winning the game by attacking and blocking.
There you go.
And Bertarioni's got to do one of the two.
And he's got another Planeswalker there into Fairy, Time Raveler, to bounce the Devoted Druid. Bertarioni is going to play a Noble Hierarch. He'll come in with a 3/3 Elk that's actually a 4/4 Elk because of the Noble Hierarch. A very quick double block means that Giver of Runes that was a 3/3 Elk is now dead, leaving Zach with his own. And you got to imagine Zach is feeling pretty good about this game, so long as he can get a handle on that Devoted Druid, which he can pretty easily do given the Oko that's on the battlefield.
Yeah, I think we're almost just done here. There's no way for Bertarioni to make inroads on the Oko, and there's no way for him to make inroads in combat against Batterskull and all of Allen's superior creatures.
Yeah, it's quite the setup here for Zach Allen, to be sure. You mentioned the Batterskull just kind of making the Elks basically irrelevant, and if Devoted Devastation can never get to Oko and get it off the battlefield, they can never go off.
Right, and this is I think that on the balance, the deck is more powerful not having Collected Company. Eldromir's Call allows you to be a lot faster and more precise, but you are seeing a little bit of the cost of assembling the deck this way. Now, it wouldn't matter because Teferi Time Raveler would shut out Bertarioni's ability to play on Allen's end step, but there's not even the threat of being able to Collected Company or Court of Calling for a combo piece at the end of the turn, and then untap and do your thing. Bertarioni has to deploy a Devoted Druid and then get to untap with it, and that's just impossible with the sub that Allen has generated here.
Spellcaller is going to eat that Devoted Druid. Batterskull is going to come on in via the Stoneforge Mystic, the old 1-2 punch that Shaheen Sarani and many others were waiting for, and now Zach Allen is going to be untapping. He'll be drawing. He's got 2 active Planeswalkers in Oko and Teferi, a Batterskull on the battlefield, a Spell Queller out there too in combination with Teferi. It's all coming up, Zach Allen, and Jeremy Bertarioni knows that he's going to concede the game. So Zach Allen very quickly up a game here over Jeremy Bertarioni. Devoted Devastation has got some real work to do here against Bant Snowblade. Looks like a very difficult matchup here for Jeremy, at least with how that game played. Those players go to the drawing board pretty quickly here. A couple different cards they have access to in their sideboard. But I think on the whole here, this deck, this Zach Allen deck, this is very much what Zach Allen likes to be doing. This is he likes control strategies, and while I don't think you can play pure control in Modern right now, this is pretty close to it, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, well, he is doing a lot of work on his own main phase. You know, Stoneforge Mystic plus the Planeswalkers is a fair bit of tapping out on his own turn, and, you know, at least in Standard, Allen has done a lot of his work with much more of the pure control style strategies, but, you know, he's not playing Cryptic Command. The deck is proactive in a lot of ways. In this matchup, he's certainly the reactive deck. As we saw, if he gets enough time and fends off Bertarioni's fast combo and makes the game about just combat on the battlefield, Allen's going to win that game almost every single time.
Yeah.
But he does have to get out of the first couple of turns without dying, and his deck has some interaction for that sort of thing, but not a ton.
Well, in that game, he had enough.
Yes.
That we know, and that's why he is very quickly up a game here in this match between him and Jeremy Bertarioni. Bertarioni, another player that has certainly made a name for himself on the SCG Tour. Bertarioni with Devoted Devastation, Zach Allen with Bant Snowblade, and game number 2 will be underway here in just a moment. See if these players are able to find hands that they're happy to keep. It looks like Bertarioni is going to send it back. You see his sideboard here with 2 Collector Oofs, 3 Mirran Crusaders, 2 Disdainful Strokes, a Dismember, 4 Path to Exile, and 3 Veil of Summer. So some cheap interaction, and then the kind of the breaker there in Mirran Crusader. That was the idea here from Team Lotus Box, a card that a lot of people weren't prepared to beat, and something that Oko really has a tough time beating.
Yep. Wouldn't surprise me if Crusaders came in, maybe some of the creature removal. None of those cards are spectacular, but, you know, and there's the question of how much does Bertarioni want to deviate from anything that facilitates the combo.
No mana acceleration for Zach Allen this time around, which means a turn 2 Oko is going to hit the battlefield here for Jeremy Bertarioni. You mentioned it once already that this deck isn't really so much an Oko deck, but it's nice to have that as a tool at your disposal. It's just a good card that people have trouble with.
Yeah. And there's sometimes where where the combo's not available for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's even an opposing Oko. And so Oko allows you to win games just by managing combat in ways that, you know, very few other cards can.
Stoneforge Mystic is going to go grab a Sword of Fire and Ice, pardon me. It's not time for Feast and Famine just yet. Well, it's going to be a 3/3 Elk on the side of Bertarioni. Noble Hierarch, and now it's an attack for 5, so we're going beatdowns. The follow-up is Devoted Druid. And now if you're Zach Allen, you're in a rock and a hard place because you got to take care of a couple different things here. Oko is starting to get out of control, and well, if you don't take care of Devoted Druid, you could die to the combo.
Yep. And, you know, Bertarioni doing a good job here of coming at the game in multiple angles. He's got some pressure that might force Allen to tap out or play a little bit to the battlefield, and then he's threatening a combo as well.
In the draw step, after the draw, and Zach Allen is going to Path to Exile that Devoted Druid. And Bertarioni is going to allow that to resolve. He'll search up a snow-covered plains. Well, let's see if we're going to see another attack here. What makes this minorly interesting, I suppose it's a 5/5 into what could be a Batter Skull, which would be a 4/4. So I think maybe a pretty straightforward attack if Bertarioni does want to make it, and so he will make it.
I mean, Allen's Stoneforge Mystic there is a little bit suspicious because Sword of Fire and Ice is not really what this game is about right now, with Bertarioni applying so much pressure. There's a reasonable chance that Allen has naturally drawn the copy of Batter Skull. Nothing for Bertarioni to really do about it because the attack is still safe, and you know he can't do anything on defense about it until Allen plays it. But should be on Bertarioni's radar as a strong possibility.
And there is the Batter Skull. So not too surprising there. You mentioned the likelihood of Zach Allen have drawn that card because the game isn't really about Sword of Fire and Ice, as you did mention. So Bertarioni is going to have his Oko slide down to 4 counters, given the hit there with the Batter Skull. We're going to be heading back over to Jeremy now. So he wants to use his Oko this turn. He's got two 3/3 Elks on his side of the battlefield, staring down a 4/4 Batterskull. Numbers currently lining up in favor of Zach Allen. It looks like Zach is going to return his Batterskull to hand with that Oko trigger on the stack, because if Oko were to turn the Batterskull into a 3/3, it removes that text of being able to return it.
Yeah, everything's gone forever.
Yeah.
Now, remains to be seen. I mean, it's a lot of time and resources from Allen to try to protect this Batterskull. So it's not free to do, but Allen deciding if he's getting attacked by a bunch of 3/3s, the 4/4 lifelinker is just too valuable to give up.
Is it time to maybe go towards something like a Supreme Verdict if Zach Allen does have that? He'll start by, well, I think this is a dead giveaway.
Well,
yeah.
Would suggest
If that Stoneforge Mystic is getting busy that turn, then it's very clearly a Supreme Verdict. A food will be made. Let's see what the follow-up is here for Jeremy. Jeremy's going to sacrifice a fetch land, tap some mana here. Oko's still on the battlefield, of course. This is a devoted druid. Will he ever be able to get the infinite mana combo online?
Allen's position is pretty strong. You know, again, he's got to win on the two fronts, and that isn't the easiest thing to do. But he's at least fended off the initial wave from Bertarioni, and now only a handful of cards left in hand. Even if Bertarioni can generate infinite mana, not clear he has a way to end the game on that front.
Yep, not sure if he has the payoff, so he's going to turn his food into an elk, and it'll be Ice Fang Cold'll trigger, draw a card. That thing's got Death Touch. Happy to make that trade. So, minor advantage there to Zach Allen. Your follow-up there is a Vizier of Remedies. This is a Spell Queller. So that will take care of that. Again, gotta remember, this is the kind of Magic that Zach Allen really does like to play. Vizier, infinite mana, but nothing to do with it, just like you said.
Yeah, Bertarioni down to one card in hand, and it wasn't a Dustwatch Recruiter or some other payoff card. And, you know, Allen's still got to break this up, no question about it. But Bertarioni able to set up a reasonable spot here, can get to infinite mana, but nothing to do with it.
See where Zach Allen goes towards now.
Get the feeling if Allen can kind of fend off this last wave, he's going to win pretty easily with the leftovers.
Well, there's Winds of Abandon. He's going to take care of those creatures. And now he's going to start to get to work on Oko. Now, it's a big slog to try to take care of that Oko, of course, but he's going to try to do that, so Oko's down to 6. Your follow-up is a Giver of Runes. Going to make a food there with the Oko back up to 8 counters. Is it worth it for Zach Allen to try to keep attacking that thing? You do have to be a little bit wary of the fact that there could be some swapsies that do take place here. But attacking Oko almost seems like a helpless cause, though this Sword of Fire and Ice might be able to help a little bit here. So, suit it up, give some beatdowns, trigger, kill the Giver of Runes, and draw a card. So, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other way of doing it, right? It's just apply so much pressure you don't have to worry about the Oko. Mana leak.
Yeah, mana leak again. Eldamri's Call? I don't think so. Do you want to turn that food into some beatdowns, perhaps? Jeremy's running out of gas, folks. He's had that Oko on the battlefield since turn 2, Patrick. But Sword of Fire and Ice is looking to start to take over this game now. It's 7-2 right now in favor of Jeremy. This would be an attack here for 2, 3, 4. Deal the 2 to you. Puts you down to 1. Draw a card. Just makes you wonder, what does Zach Allen have in his hand?
I mean, we know there's a Batterskull. Should not be the hardest to block out of this turn.
There's Oko. That's probably not too bad. Making a food, that can gain you 3 life. This is a Noble Hierarch. That's a couple of blockers. Bertarioni, I don't know what his best draw step is right now. Well, that's a tutor. Spell Queller's going to take care of that, and that's going to do it. Zach Allen's going to win this game and match 2-0.